Welcome one and all, this is Comic Book Central, where comic books come to life, the world's first podcast devoted exclusively to in-depth interviews with the talented folks who bring comics to life in film, television, animation, video games, podcasts, and beyond. I am your host, Joe Stuber. So glad you could all join me here in the lair for my look back at this year's Terrificon. Yeah, it's Connecticut's #1 comics and pop culture convention. And in parts 1 and 2, I brought you a bunch of interviews as I walked the floor of the event, met with a lot of the talented folks at their tables. Hope you caught those episodes. If you missed them, no problem. After today's show, you can check them out at the website, comicbookcentral.net. They're all in the archive. Now, for the next few episodes, I'm going to be bringing you audio from the Q&As that I moderate all weekend long at Terrificon. Today, I'm going to bring you my Q&A with the great actor Henry Thomas. Now, we all know him as Elliot from E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, of course. We're going to talk a lot about that film, but also the classic spy thriller, Cloak and Dagger, one of my favorites. Also some of his scarier roles, much, much more. That Q&A is on the way. By the way, my thanks to the folks at Fandom Spotlight for getting the audio of the panels to me so I can bring them to you right here on Comic Book Central. And of course, my thanks to Mitch Halleck and Team Terrificon for welcoming Comic Book Central to the show each and every year. Now, these Q&As and these interviews that I get at the tables and all those different things that I'm bringing you here on the show, if you missed hearing from these guests in person this year, if you weren't there, oh, it's so much better if you're there. I can bring you the audio on the show, but man, it's so much better if you attend in person. Terrificon 2026 is going to take place August 7th through the 9th at Mohegan Sun. So you want to make your plans now. Tickets are on sale right now. Terrificon.com. That's where you get them. All the information is there. Make your plans now and be sure to tell them Stuberman sent you. All right, big show today. My adventure at Terrificon continues. Check this out. Going to pay a few bills. Then I will be right back with E.T.'s Henry Thomas. Kicking things off, I can't think of a better way than a veteran actor well known for his performances in films like, as I just mentioned recently, Cloak and Dagger, Legends of the Fall, Gangs of New York, quite a few Stephen King adaptations, and of course, a little independent film you might have heard of called E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. Time to welcome in Henry Thomas. I want to ask you how Terrificon's going, but I think you just got here. I mean, we just started. We're just kicking things off. First time here.
Yeah.
But have you formed any impressions of you've been to a bunch of these things though, right?
I do probably about 8 to 10 a year on average. And, each one is different and, not just because of whatever region you happen to be in. It's a community, so they all have their own different kind of a feel. But this one seems really great. It's a lot bigger than what I expected.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of people here.
There's a lot of people here. That's good. There's a lot of people here, too. And I'm guessing you probably do some horror cons. Is that a fair statement to say?
I do, yeah, with The Haunting of Hill House and a lot of the Mike Flanagan universe, Flaniverse, I guess they call it. Yeah. With those, I've kind of toured the horror circuit a bit.
Do you find, okay, so people are approaching your table. You said you do what, 8 to 10, would you say 8 to 10 of these a year?
Yeah, 8 to 10 a year, so on average.
Coming up to the table, can you spot the horror fan right away? Can you spot the E.T. person right away? Can you spot, the Stargirl person right away?
Well, if they're not...
have you built that skill set yet?
Yeah, I mean... to be fair, a lot of them are wearing a lot of branding, so I can kind of spot them.
That's true.
If I see the ET shirts, I kind of know. But no, it's interesting because I've been working for 40-something years since I was a kid, and you see your audience and the viewership kind of change a little bit, and I get people who are very young, and they come up to the table, and they've only seen Haunting of Hill House or something. And this young guy came up the last con I was at in Knoxville, Tennessee, and he goes, "Oh, snap!" And I looked over, and he was like down at the end of my table, and he was looking at a picture from E.T. And he didn't realize I was the guy from E.T. He just knew me from Hill House.
Wow. See, we don't have that perception because, a lot of us, we are that person that knows you from E.T., but I guess you hit this other generation that hasn't identified it yet. When that happened, that's, whoa, okay, there's a whole new generation just opens up for the film.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those films that has kind of, every generation it's been handed down. And this was my favorite movie when I was a kid. I want you to watch it. And, Wizard of Oz all over again.
Yeah.
So for me, that was the film when I was a kid. It was Wizard of Oz.
Oh, I was wondering what your E.T. was. Is that Wizard? Okay, Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz and, I guess Star Wars to an extent. Because when I saw that in the theaters, I thought, wow, you can do that for a living. Those guys that's their job, and that kind of made me want to pursue a career in film.
I want to dig into that a little bit, but first I want to mention your upcoming film. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's The Asylum?
Yes.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about that? I think you just recently wrapped in Kentucky filming there. What can you tell us about this film that's coming up?
So, The Asylum it's a psychological thriller. It's kind of on the edge of psychological thriller and horror, but there's no gore. It's mostly a mental exercise. But it's about a patient at an asylum and a doctor at an asylum who, and I play the head of security at the asylum. And there's a little bit of a question of whether or not there are some unethical practices between the doctors and the patients here. And we kind of go into a deep dive that unravels the asylum and the characters.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, so this is gonna be, and when can we expect to see it, and where can we? Because now I have to ask people, because it's is it on a streaming service? Is it on my phone? Is it in the theaters? Is it where am I watching this? Is it?
Yeah, so
are they going to bring it over to my house and let me watch it?
So if you have been following the news a little bit, that the entertainment industry is in a bit of a flux right now.
It's a tad, to say the least.
I think they're, the guys who count beans are suddenly on the spot, and just like usual, they can't really deliver. So it's kind of turned over to independent film a lot now. And what that means is basically we have less money to go make the movie, but we go make it, and then we try to sell it afterwards. So there is a chance that you will never see The Asylum, but...
Oh, this is the process we're in now. We're gonna find the outlet.
Yeah,
okay.
So basically what will happen is probably within the next year, we'll have some kind of a deal somewhere, and I'll be able to tell you in more detail.
Okay.
But if you have social media, you can find The Asylum Film on Instagram, I know for sure.
Okay.
And they keep updating regularly, so.
And are you on the socials, or
I am on Instagram.
You'll post it if it.
I'll post pictures and I promote things that I professionally, but I'm a bit of a Luddite. I don't really like social media, I have to admit, and I'm not someone who enjoys filming themselves and doing like PowerPoint.
Showing what you ate for breakfast that morning or something, or
yeah.
Here's my feet on the beach. I'm going to show my feet on the beach.
It's really warm out today. Thanks.
Might be a whole new career. For you. Speaking about your career, looking over, I'm sure, especially when you go to the table, things like E.T. and different things, and the Stephen King adaptations get a lot of attention. Are there things that you've worked on that you're particularly proud of that maybe didn't get the attention you think deserves? What are some of your favorite Henry Thomas projects that you worked on?
Oh, I don't know.
I know it's self-serving. I get it. I'm sorry. I know the question itself is self-serving,
it's okay.
but
It's okay. To your point, there are a lot of things that kind of slip through the cracks that,
Yeah.
as an actor, film and TV and all of that, it's not your medium. It's a director's medium or an editor's medium. You're just kind of at their mercy. So sometimes your character makes it through relatively intact, and sometimes they cut the guts out of your character and just leave you there to flap in the wind. So I think my character in Gangs of New York, he got done a little bit dirty by the powers that be, because everybody remembers Gangs of New York, but whenever people talk to me about it, they're like, "Yeah, you're the guy that betrayed Leo and they killed you," and I'm like, "Yeah, but he stole my girl." That's why. I told him that Jenny was my girlfriend, and he just walked all over me and took her. So of course I turned on him, because he had already turned on me. But nobody seems to remember that. So that's one thing where they didn't quite give me as good of a setup as they could have, I think.
Do you find yourself getting into debates with fans this often over your characters?
No,
you don't understand.
I think it's funny, though.
Yeah.
Sometimes, because, you do get attached to those characters when you're playing them, and you kind of want to see them do well. I remember trying to convince Ed Zwick, the director of Legends of the Fall, that Samuel shouldn't get killed in the First World War. He should come back, because I was trying to stretch my part out. But it didn't work, as you can see from the final film. A lot of it's just lip service on my part, and it never really goes anywhere. So I'm glad you guys are watching.
Is that part of the key to tap into, like, maybe a character that's less than desirable, is that you have to find, do you tap into that, or how do you tap into that, of just finding the motive? Because you talk about, it's so easy to say villains or something like that, but it's like, you have to find why they're doing what they're doing, right?
Well, that's it, because nobody thinks of themselves as a villain.
Right.
You wouldn't do it unless you're a comic book character, right? Then you enjoy being a villain, right? Yes. That's your identity. But I think as an actor, what you're always trying to do is you find the humanity and you zero in on that. So maybe, maybe this guy wasn't held enough as a baby or something, who knows? But whatever it is, you find that, because humans are going to be watching it, and humans are going to find a human way to relate to it. So the more on track you are with that, the easier it is for the audience to get invested. And that's what you're trying to do as an actor anyway. You're kind of bringing the audience into the story. And if you're kind of a one-note or single-focus plain sort of character, people are going to look at the other shiny objects. So it's always good to kind of put more life where there isn't, rather than make it all sort of very angular and weird.
You tapped into something there too, because if the backstory for somebody like that isn't on the page necessarily, if they didn't give you a backstory, do you find yourself just as an actor maybe just mentally giving yourself a backstory? Have you done that on some characters? And is there an example you can share with us maybe?
Well, let me see. I think.
Or sometimes I know actors want to keep that to themselves too. So if it's too personal,
it's not. I mean, in a way, when the magician shows his tricks.
Right.
But when the actor shows his tricks, people just kind of they go blank and they start thinking about their accounts and things. So for me, I think the biggest example of that was when I play someone, for instance, in my character in Fall of the House of Usher, Frederick Usher, was a very despicable sort of a character. And it's kind of a satirical look at kind of the privileged or the entitled and the kind of nepotism and big money. So there's a little of it that is, it's kind of referencing that, and it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. But I couldn't just play that, because if I played that, then the character has no personality, really, right? So what I did was I tried to take 3 figures that I thought were sort of either narcissistic or self-involved, or represented that at least, and then I could kind of combine them and use them as a template. So the characters I chose, the real people I chose were Donald Trump Jr., Hunter Biden, and Fabio.
Wow.
So
I'm going to be honest, I did not see that coming.
So those were my guys. And if you watch it again with that in mind, it could be a very interesting rewatch.
Everybody's Googling right now and finding where it's streaming. We're going to go find it and get it and watch it. That's unbelievable. I was not expecting that answer. We've got a microphone right over here. So if you have any questions, we're going to take audience questions too. I've got a bunch of questions. I can go all day. But if you guys want to just line up over at the microphone so we can hear you, because we're recording all this. But just, head on over if you've got any questions, and we'll go from there. You mentioned early on, so kid Henry Thomas, growing up, was a Star Wars fan, pretty big Star Wars fan?
Yeah. Okay,
and that sort of, like you said, that was the springboard into, I can maybe do this for a living? Or?
Well, it was the first time. So in 1976, when Star Wars was in the theater, I'm from South Texas, and we didn't have air conditioning in the 70s or most of the 80s. But my mother used to take me to the movie theater in the summertime because it was cool, and they had air conditioning, and we'd pay for one movie, and then we'd sit there all day and watch it again or go into the other theaters. And they didn't seem to care. So that, to me, was the introduction of, because as a kid I was thinking at 5, what am I going to do with my life for the rest of my life? Seriously.
Deep thinking 5-year-old.
Like, what am I going to be when I grow up?
Wow.
And I thought, well, that looks pretty fun. You know? And so that was the idea of, you can do that for a living.
Yeah.
Star Wars, you could be one of those guys. And that got the wheels turning, and then, it just kind of, it ended up happening. My dad was a trumpet player. My dad wanted me to be a musician, so he had me in piano lessons, and my piano teacher was the local director of the local theater group. She was a music director, and she got me my first part in a play.
Wow.
Because they needed a kid, and I could carry a tune well enough to go out and sing a line, because I was a newspaper boy in a play, and that was my first part.
Okay. You mentioned the Fall of the House of Usher. Did you get to meet Mark Hamill?
Yeah.
On the set? And how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you fanboy out? Because that young Henry still has to be in there somewhere, right?
Oh yeah, no,
okay.
I mean,
or did you turn that completely off?
Well, no, I wanted to have my moment, of I just wanted to tell you that Luke Skywalker was. But it was like the other guy, Rahul Kohli. He just jumped the line. He jumped the shark and went in and did it. So then I couldn't do it after that, because he had already done it. But he did it like first off, he just walked into set and he was just like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. I just have to blah, blah, blah," and I was like,
So did you get to?
No, I
geek
took a
out
picture
little
of
bit,
his. I took a picture of his chair.
Okay.
It says Mark Hamill
All
on
right.
it. I took a picture and I posted it on my social media, and I was like,
There's where the social media comes.
I
Yes,
did it.
so you should be doing much more of this.
I worked with my hero.
That's so amazing. Okay, we'll go to take some audience questions. Yep. Tell us your name and where you're from.
Thank you. I'm Casey. I'm from Attleboro, Massachusetts.
Hey, Casey.
Really grateful to you for being here. I wanted to ask about Raggedy Man. It looks like such a beautiful, bucolic start. The switchboard house seems so safe and innocent there. I wanted to ask, working with Sissy Spacek, Jack Fisk, Eric Roberts, Sam Shepard, what did you take from that first experience that you use as an adult now on sets? And did you stay in touch with Sam Shepard to work on Curse of the Starving Class, or did you audition for that?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Raggedy Man was my first film, and Jack Fisk, who is a production designer known mainly for working on Terrence Malick's films. He and Sissy met on Badlands, and they were married, and they've been married since. I've stayed in touch with them throughout my career, and yeah. And what didn't I take away from that experience? Because, boy, you couldn't have chosen better actors or better people actually to work with any time, but especially your first time. And so I was really, really lucky and felt very fortunate to have had a chance to work with them all. And Sissy's my favorite actress that I've ever worked with. She's the best. And I worked with her just a couple of years ago on another film, Sam and Kate, it was called. And in that film, I worked with Sissy and her daughter, Skylar. And when I was a kid, when E.T. came out, it was a big deal, and I got nominated for a bunch of things, a bunch of awards, and I didn't win anything. And Jack Fisk, the director, he knew I was crestfallen because I didn't win, so he made an award, and it's called the Skylar Award, because Skylar was just born that year. And so I still have it, and it's the only award I'll ever need.
Jack, he was the one that got you, so the director of that film got you basically in the door for E.T., right?
He did indeed, yeah, because they were...
Spielberg was struck like a month before shooting, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't have Elliot.
Well...
Or pretty close.
They had tentatively cast this other kid, and they were having all of the... Like in those days, Robert McNaughton, who played my brother Michael in the film, he has a better story about this because he was involved more in the casting process, because he was already cast for the film, and they had like these. They often call them like chemistry reads, where they get some people that they're thinking of, and they put them all together in a room, and then they sit there and speculate, like, could these guys all get along for a couple of months? Oh, the interactions are pretty cool. We like these two. It's one of those things. So this kid that they had hired, I guess he didn't pass all of the chemistry reads or something that they had, and they were still looking for somebody else. And Poltergeist was being edited in the same editing bay as, or across the editing bay, across the hall, in the same facility, same building, as Raggedy Man was being edited, because they were both Universal films. And they heard through the grapevine Spielberg was looking for a kid, and they cut together a reel from Raggedy Man, showed it to Stephen, and then I had an audition like a couple weeks later.
Go figure. Well, sorry for whoever that kid was that didn't work out, but thank goodness things worked out here.
I think he was a kid that was later in Flight of the Navigator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then it worked out.
Yeah.
We're good. He's good.
He's all right.
We'll take another audience question here. And name and where you're from?
My name is Judy, and I live in West Haven.
Hey, Judy.
Can I ask 2 questions?
Sure.
Okay. So
We got time.
My
We got
first
time.
question is, in The Haunting of Hill House, you and Timothy Hutton played the same role. Did you guys compare notes, or was that all Flanagan?
No, Tim and I went to the aquarium together in Atlanta, and we watched the dolphin show and hung out for a day and talked a little bit. And then I was up first. So in a way, I got off kind of easy because on the schedule, I was up first, so I played before he did. So because of that, I kind of set the pace, and then he came in, and then I would just check in with him every once in a while, like
So
over
you
this
filmed-
scene or that scene.
You filmed all your scenes first? before
I didn't
he-
film all of my scenes first, but I was up on the schedule like a few days before he was.
Oh, okay.
So I got to have the first say.
It was great. And what a great production. The only television movie that's ever scared me was
Oh,
that.
well,
Yeah.
thanks for watching.
It was great.
I think it's the best one that we've done together
Yeah,
as a whole. I've had more fun playing some of the other characters just because I feel like all I did in Haunting of Hill House was, say it's going to be okay and run in and out of the house a lot. But some of the other characters I had a little bit more to do. But as an audience member, I enjoyed Haunting of Hill House the best.
Great. Okay, so my second question is a little bit, I don't know, dicey maybe? I don't know. But on E.T., one of your co-stars, Drew Barrymore, famously went through some growing pains and has a great career now. And I'm wondering how you avoided that as a child star, because so many seem to fall by the wayside.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, my parents weren't Hollywood folks, and we didn't live there, and we didn't have any interaction with the film world other than from Raggedy Man and whatever, just my career thus far. So for me, it was, I was working on this movie for 2 months, and now I'm back home, and nobody knows me, right?
San Antonio, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, of course, E.T. changed that to an extent, but my parents, if my mother and my father could have stayed on that, 200-acre area and never seen another living human being for the rest of their lives, they would have been totally happy. So I was, that's the environment I grew up in.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Another audience question here, yep.
Hi, my name is Candy McCumber, and I have 2 questions. The first one was in Cloak and Dagger. That was the next one after E.T., correct?
Well, it was, yes, it was the next studio film that I did after E.T., but I did another film called Misunderstood with a director called Jerry Schatzberg, who directed Scarecrow, Panic in Needle Park. We filmed Misunderstood in 1983. It was Gene Hackman, myself, Rip Torn, Susan Anspach, and a Connecticut actor, Huckleberry Fox, who was in Terms of Endearment. We played brothers. So Misunderstood is probably the best film I did as a kid, but nobody's ever seen it, or very few people have seen it.
Yeah, everybody's going to get it.
But then I did Cloak and Dagger was 83, 84, and that's the only studio film that I ever starred in my career.
And the second part is, are there any films that you turned down that you regret, that you wish you had done, or any parts that you did do that you say, I wish I didn't do?
Well, I've been on a lot of films that I've thought, man, how did I get on this film? But I don't know. I mean, I could tell you some things about how close I got to this part or that part, and I almost was this guy. But it all just kind of sounds hollow at the end of the day, I think. You know, it's like you do what you do, and I mean, pretty much any movie that you can think of that had a kid in it in the 80s, between 82 and 86, they came to me first.
Oh, wow.
You know, because I was at the top of the list. It's like they were like, you know, it's that thing I think Steve Guttenberg said, where there's like 5 levels of fame. There's, you know, who is Steve Guttenberg? Then there's, get me Steve Guttenberg, or what would Steve Guttenberg do? And then, do we have someone like Steve Guttenberg? And then, where is Steve Guttenberg? So for me, that time was get me Steve Guttenberg, and I was Steve Guttenberg. You know, but they had basically moved on within a couple of years to, you know, whoever was the flavor of the month then.
It's a good thing you didn't take Flight of the Navigator, because that kid would have been really ticked out. I'm
Oh,
trying
boy.
to remember who it is now. It's like,
That's true.
there you go.
Now, you know, now probably he'll be very angry because he's not the guy that was cast. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure who it was exactly. But yeah, that would have been bad if I was the he gets every part guy.
Thanks for the question. She walked me right into Cloak and Dagger. I've got to ask you, last year was the 40th anniversary of the film. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend. There's a tricked out 4K version of it that they have, which I would never in a million years would have thought that flick would have gotten a 4K restoration and the whole thing. It's like, because when it came out, unfortunately it was a blip, but
it was a flop. I think it opened to the tune of like I think $4 million, which would be like 10 million today, but still it wasn't enough to keep it going.
But I mean, with Dabney Coleman in it, and it's just like, I remember loving that as a kid. And it was like, I refer to it as like Hitchcock for kids.
Yeah.
It's kind of like and I was a Hitchcock fan at the time too, and then it was like, oh, there's like people I know are like, and it was so cool. And if you could talk a little bit about filming that, because I think the interesting part about that was they came to you. You mentioned like you were coming off of ET. It's like, we got to have this, but like writers came to you, right? Like you were in San Antonio and they're like, well, hey kid.
So basically they had, it's interesting that you mentioned Hitchcock, because Richard Franklin, the director of Cloak and Dagger, he was an Australian director, and he had done the sequel to Psycho. And they had a short story called The Window that Hitchcock had optioned years ago, and there was a script. So they revamped it, and it's basically a boy who cried wolf story. So, you know, boy sees a murder, he tells everybody there's a murder, no one believes him, and ultimately the killers come after him. And so they took that, and then they added spies and role-playing games and video games, because those were all trending in
That was the
1983.
80s, yes.
And they turned it into kind of a kid's adventure movie, you know. But they definitely tailored it to me, and they set it in San Antonio. We filmed in San Antonio,
Right.
and it's a big part of the film.
But weren't the writers like hanging around you too, and like hey Henry, how would you say this, or like what would you do in this?
No, it wasn't that intense, but it was, we had a couple of meetings and we had dinners together, I remember.
Okay.
Like in the space of a weekend or
Yeah.
a couple of days. And then they went away and
Okay, yeah. Because there's so many scenes of like you playing video games, and it's like the Jack Black character, and
well, they were definitely like mining me for
Material.
What do you do? What do you like to? And I was into role playing games and everything because
Okay.
of E.T. and Dungeons and Dragons and Traveler and all these other kind of. They were basically like theater of the mind games, tabletop games, as you would call them today.
Dabney Coleman. I know you've said before Dabney Coleman, we lost him recently, and he's such a great actor.
Yeah.
But you've mentioned before, like you weren't sure. You watch the interviews for Cloak and Dagger; it's really cool, so I highly recommend it. But you mentioned like you weren't sure how he took you. I can tell you there was a quote from him. He says, "It was great working with that little kid, Henry Thomas. What a kid and a great actor." So he thought you were a great actor in an interview years later, but he did mention he had some problems with the director, I guess, too. Could you talk a little bit about Dabney and some of the challenges on that film? And did you run into any, what challenges, or did you bring about challenges for Dabney Coleman as a precocious young one?
I think, at that time, there was one thing that I was doing that I didn't realize was a bad thing amongst actors because I hadn't had enough experience. But oftentimes as you're a kid, they will pull you when you're off camera. You won't have to be there. They pull you and they put you in school because you got to bank hours. You have to have 3 hours of school each day. And that takes precedence. So they would often pull you as a kid and put you in there. But what you're supposed to do as an actor is when you're off camera, you should be there for the other actors to deliver the dialogue and emote like you did in the scene so that their reaction will be, comparable. They're not sitting there looking at a tennis ball trying to invent what you did.
Or a grip, holding a donut or something in the copy.
Yeah, that happens too.
Right.
So, it's like, I think I pissed Dabney off like in the beginning because they were pulling me and he would have to, he was flapping in the wind there doing his bit. So, if I could go back and do things over, I would change that. But at the same time, he was a very, very nice man to me, and we didn't have any problems in the scenes. But he did have a problem with the director. They were butting heads. Yeah, they didn't.
Well, dude, can you tell? I mean, if you can't, you can't. I mean, again, we're going back 40 years.
I mean, to be honest, I don't know what it was about.
Okay.
But it was just. It wasn't an aggressive. I'm not going to speak to this guy.
Yeah.
We're not working together kind of a thing. It was, they had a difference in opinions about how the character would react, and Dabney wanted to play it a certain way. Richard wanted him to, I guess, play it straight. And
he's playing two different characters too.
Right.
I mean, that's the crazy thing. It's become so beloved too. I had to ask you about that because he mentioned in an interview, but he also mentioned he was like eating dinner and Timothy Bottoms came up to. I don't know if you saw that quote, but he was like, he said, "This happens to me a few times a year." Timothy said, "This movie means so much to my son and me," and I think when you watch it again, years later, if you watch it as a kid and then all of a sudden you grow up and have kids, it's have any of your family have seen it? Or
actually,
it's such a good flick.
Funnily enough, we've been talking about watching Cloak and Dagger for years, but my son and I haven't watched it yet.
Okay. I mean, it's very 80s. I'm sure they'll be like, "Dad, it's very dated," and so, yeah, okay.
Well, I'm like the worst. I'm the worst for being able to watch myself on
Yeah.
screen. I don't like it.
Yeah.
'Cause
But that'd be cool.
I take myself out of it, you know.
But it'd be cool if they saw it and liked it. But you like it. You love the film.
I like the film, yeah,
Okay,
for
good.
sure. Yeah.
Yay.
I think, you know, it's for a 12-year-old boy at the
Yeah.
time, it was a grand adventure.
Yes. I can attest that it was. We'll take another audience question here.
Hi, my name is Kevin. My question is about Dr. Sleep, where you played a very important role. What was it like playing Jack Torrance and being Jack Nicholson in a sense? And my question, I more wanted to ask, did Mike Flanagan want you to just copy Jack Nicholson, or were you able to give your own interpretation of the character to it?
Yeah. So the interesting thing was I was only on set for one day. But I was in fittings for wigs and hairlines and eyebrows and all sorts of stuff for about a month. So there was more talking about the day of work than the day of work ended up being. But I was never playing just Jack or just Lloyd. I was playing the house, playing Danny, right? So I was playing the house, and as the house, I was sometimes Lloyd, I was sometimes Jack, I was sometimes Delbert Grady, and Mike was basically trying to thread all of the eyes of the needle there with all of those things. So I was leaning more into Jack Torrance at the beginning, and Mike kept dragging me back. But the notes, as the day went on, the notes became like, less Jack, more Lloyd, you know. So, so it was just kind of a dance of, you know, have I watched The Shining enough?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Another question from the audience here?
Hi, my name is Maggie. I'm from Stonington, Connecticut. I wanted to ask about the book that you wrote and how long it took you to write it. Had you been thinking about doing that for a long time? It says that it's the first in a series. Are you have another one coming out anytime soon, or?
Yes, thank you. I'm working on the second one. I was saying earlier that I'm kind of in a weird place right now in terms of trying to self-publish and thinking of different options, because the publishing house that I'm working with, I don't know if I'm going to continue on there. But I worked on developing the story for about probably 4 years, just almost as a side project. Like, I'm probably never going to do this, but I had a collection of voice memos and notes and some drawings and things that I had done, and I was building the world for a few years in my head. And then I got a job in Romania, and we were advised not to leave the hotel because this was, I think, in 2014, and Vladimir Putin had just retaken part of the Crimean Peninsula or something, and there was a lot of military activity in the area, and it wasn't on the news and stuff. And so I was like, well, I could possibly get shot, or I could stay here in the hotel. And there was a casino next door. And I was at this hotel that there was a big courtyard, and there was a big pool out in the courtyard, and there was, a little bar down there, and I thought, I'll just hang out here every day and I'll write. And like all of the very attractive young women that were out there by the pool they kept turning up day after day, and then I realized they weren't there just for fun. You know, they were working. They were working the pool, the casino, and the hotel. So I was like, I've got to either write or I'm either going to get shot or get in trouble and probably end up, in jail or divorced or both. So I wrote my novel, and I wrote about half of it there, and then when I went home, I finished it. So it took me I'd say about 8 months to write that book, but there was a lot of figuring out, while I was there that I did. And I'd like to write more. I'm still writing. I just I got kind of frustrated with the publishing aspect of everything, so I'm still trying to figure that out.
In the time we have left, I'm going to pepper you with ET questions. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah.
I got to do it. I've been holding off for so long. True or false? Let's do a couple true or false. True or false? You auditioned for the role of Elliot in an Indiana Jones costume?
False. I met Steven Spielberg with a bullwhip from Six Flags.
Close enough.
Close enough for me. Tied to my waist. Yeah.
Nope. Close enough for me. That is cosplay.
Okay.
That is Indiana Jones
Yeah.
cosplay. That is true. Erica Laniak recently said you were at the time of the big kiss scene, and you were in a girls' haters club.
That's right.
Is that true?
Well,
This was a tough scene for you to film, yes?
I was, as a 9, almost 10-year-old boy, the idea of kissing a girl in front of a whole crew full of adults and other people.
But it was Erica Laniak.
Well, Erica Laniak was about 2 years and 2 feet taller than me.
That's why you had to stand on that kid. Yeah.
And and I was mortified.
Yeah, she was too, apparently. She didn't want to do it.
Well, yeah, and then when we did it, when we did the first take, because I had to watch this, this clip of John Wayne in The Quiet Man, because I have to do the whole grab and he spins her back in, and so I had that move down, that I could do. And we did the first take, and our front teeth, I remember, just went crashed together so violently, and I was like, oh no, I ruined it. Are you okay? Yeah, she said, yeah. But
Cinema history. It's
There
cinema
it
history.
is.
How does a movie shoot a scene with Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford is not in the movie? How does that happen? Were you disappointed? I mean,
well,
you showed up with a bullwhip. Come on.
yeah, he was my hero. And
Yeah.
Melissa,
He plays the principal in the film. It's a deleted scene, and it gets cut, and you're not in there, and Elliot's floating around, and Harrison Ford's there.
well, Harrison was there a lot because Melissa Matheson was his girlfriend.
Right, screenwriter.
And she wrote the script, and Elliot was pretty much based on, kind of like a conglomeration of Harrison's 2 boys, Ben and Willard, who are not named after the famous Rat movie, by the way. I thought they were when I was a kid. I thought, oh, he's got a sick sense of humor.
I like this guy even more.
But yeah, so Harrison Ford was on set a lot, and Steven was always trying to get him to be in the film, and he was like, no, I don't want to be in it. No. I don't want to do it. And then he said, wait, we want you to play the principal. And Harrison was like, I don't want to do that. Get somebody else. He said, we'll do it. We won't show your face. It'll just be on the back of your head, And he said, okay, I'll do it if you don't show my face.
And then he cuts it out. Did you ever say why he cut it out?
Think of the residuals he could have gotten.
Unbelievable. I mean, we see it like the trading cards. Like you can see it in like a lot of the books and things like that. Overall, when you first saw the film, because you're making it's a whole different vibe. But when you first saw the film, and I'm telling you, I don't know about anybody else in the audience, but that scene I'm starting to get teared up. Like when the John Williams music kicks in,
Yeah.
and there's that, and thing shoots across the sky, I mean, I'm gone. I'm on the floor. I'm just crying, weeping. When you first saw it, can you see it like that now, or are you just too inside of it?
Well, that's the thing. Like whenever you're in it, it kind of takes you out of it.
Yeah.
But the great thing about making a film is you're on set and it's one movie. But when they cut it together and they put the music and they fix the sound and they add in everything and it's all edited and cut perfectly, it becomes a different thing than what you made, so you can kind of look at it objectively in that light to some extent. And I could tell when I saw the film for the first time. I saw it at the premiere in Houston, Texas, in June of '82, and the whole theater, everybody, there wasn't a dry eye in the house.
Yeah.
And everybody they loved it.
Yeah.
And I had never imagined that the film would be so well received, because, I remember reading the script as a kid and going, there's no lasers, no fights or anything. It's like this lame spaceship that just like takes off and comes back. So I thought, I don't know if it's going to be such a hit.
We cry enough for you. We do that over the years, and it still gets me to this day. For those of us that love the film, we've always alternately wanted a sequel and alternately did not ever want a sequel. I think and then in 2019, I think you hit the sweet spot.
Right.
If you haven't seen it, there's a commercial, like it's a 4 or 5 minute commercial you did for Xfinity. Just as we're wrapping up, if you could talk about just filming that, why that was so important to do that, and man, how you pulled it off. Because I watched it the other day and I started tearing up on the stupid commercial, and I'm like, it's a stupid Xfinity commercial. I'm like, you guys did it again.
Yeah, but it's like you have to see the audience's hand and all that too, because the film resonated with so many people on so many levels for so long and over generations. It's become a family thing for, I get people all the time who tell me, this was the first film I saw in the theaters. This was the first film that my parents took me to, or I remember seeing this with my grandparents. Like, it has a special place in a lot of people's hearts. So, if I show up wearing a red hoodie or something and somebody breaks into tears, it's not because of me, it's because the audience has a big heart. And I think that I agree with you as far as the sequel goes. Like, you don't want an E.T. sequel.
Right.
Because just the flavor of it and a taste of it is enough. Like in the Xfinity commercial, so many people felt a lot of closure from that commercial, I think, but it's funny because they've been trying to do that for years, but Spielberg had always said no, and this was the only time that he said yes, and that's why it happened.
You guys pulled it off, and it's just amazing to see it after all these years, and congratulations for doing that.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for E.T., thank you for Cloak and Dagger, thank you for everything. Thank you for Psycho 4. I wouldn't even get to that. I wanted to, but
thanks, yeah.
Thank you so much for everything you've done. My goodness, and we appreciate you being here. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Henry Thomas.
Well, thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
My thanks to Henry Thomas for his time during that Q&A and all those great stories he had. By the way, right after that Q&A, we stepped right outside the panel room where my guest on episode 501, Bill Diamond, was set up. Bill had a bunch of cool movie props Hollywood history everywhere, but he had an original E.T. from the film. There was a bike set up with an original basket from the film. He had a cool night sky with a full moon background there, and Henry was nice enough to take a photo with me. Definitely an iconic moment. So coming right out of the Q&A, right into that iconic moment. That is what Terrificon is all about, folks. You want to be there in person, so be sure Terrificon.com to get your tickets, to find out everything about next year's show. And you can see my full photo album at the Comic Book Central Facebook page, where you will also see a picture of me with the guest on my very next episode from Lost, The Flash, Saving Private Ryan. Man, another Spielberg classic. Jeremy Davies is going to be here. Lots to talk about with Jeremy as my adventure at this year's Terrificon continues. You do not want to miss it. Until next time, keep safe, keep reading those comics, and thanks for joining me here in the lair, Comic Book Central, where comic books come to life. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Comic Book Central. All of the content and names are registered trademarks and copyrights of their respective holders.